So you look at Michigan, and there's a history that's gone on that is rich, not only with what we've developed, what we've done, but who we are as a people. And there's something fantastic about that intestinal fortitude. And each and every one of you that are sitting here right now, except for Mr. Kentucky, Mr. Nice Guy, who is from Kentucky, we can exclude him for now. You've gone through something and decided to stick around and stick through. The last 5 years was an absolute tsunami in this state. They laugh about hurricanes can't come off the coast of Lake Michigan, and they can't. And yet we went through one, and we here now are still standing. And I honor this. Our best years are yet to come. So let's talk a little bit about that. I want to know what people are doing. I want to talk a little bit about who's in the room and who the people are that are out there doing great things right now. And it was kind of cool because I was thinking about her when we put two and two together and realized that today was the 176th birthday of Michigan. I was thinking of Miss Lisa Diggs from Buy Michigan Now. And you should know that I was going to talk about you, right? And I was going to talk about you whether I saw you or not. Yeah, well, at least I was talking about you with other people present, so you know it couldn't be that bad. Was it 5.5 years ago? Lisa's out of town. She's in the dark continent. Weren't you in Africa at the point? Yeah. So comes to the conclusion that there are better days ahead for Michigan, and that her community needs her to step up, and not as someone that has been a community connector or a person that brings people together in the past. As a business consultant, that wasn't exactly what she did, but she realized that if she could just start encouraging people to think Michigan first, to think about buying the goods, the products, the services that they use every day from local companies, that we could be our own economic stimulus. Is this fair? Am I on this so far? So 5.5 years, is it 6 years now? Somewhere in there? It'll be 6 in November. So 5, just over 5. The Buy Michigan Now movement has started. And she's been running that and bringing different businesses and different opportunities for us to educate ourselves and understand how buying locally can stimulate each and every one of us. And I'd like to thank you, and I'd like all of us to thank you by a warm round of applause. So while we're on the topic, is it July or August that the Buy Michigan Now Festival will be?
August 2nd through 4th, downtown Northville. Woo-hoo!
August 2nd through 4th, downtown Northville, Buy Michigan Now Festival. If you would like to exhibit, if you would like to sponsor, if you would like to be part of the day, that young lady in the back corner is the one you want to talk about for sure.
There's someone young back there?
That's it. So Ron talked a little bit about blight. Anybody seen any blight in and around the Detroit area? Just a touch. So one of the people that absolutely stole my heart in this town probably 7-8 years ago is a guy named John George. Anybody familiar with the work that John George does? Yes. So if anybody's out there tweeting right now, if you could throw a little, hey, Blightbusters out there, that would be fantastic. Their title is @Blightbusters. They don't respond. They don't pay attention to Twitter. But the rest of Detroit and the rest of Michigan, and quite frankly, the rest of the world, knows about the great work that this guy does every single day, 6 days a week, and has been for the past 25 years. So John gets a crew of people that are local and goes out and figures out a way to improve his corner of the world. And he lives in Brightmoor, and he grew up there, and he spent all his time there. And John was an insurance guy. And next door to his house, some people were breaking in to an abandoned home. And they were doing drugs. And they were there all the time. And it was really bothering him. And like many people that lived inside the city, he watched his neighborhood go from a really, really nice place to be to a less nice place to be. And so as that urban decay continued, and as he saw what was going on, he would do what everybody else did. Hey, man, Mr. Police, there's some crap going on in my hood, and I want it fixed. I want it stopped. But the police don't come. We know that. They got other things to do. In a city this size and this unruly, there are problems, and somebody doing drugs in an abandoned house isn't high on the list. One day, a 14-year-old girl got brought into that house. And that's a horrible, horrible story, and it's a horrible story every time. And the very next day, John George stood up and said, I have had enough. And he went down to Home Depot, and he bought boards, and he bought a hammer, and he probably bought some nails. Maybe he already had a hammer. I don't know. And he went outside that Saturday and boarded that house up. And as he was boarding that house up, what do you think happened? Neighbors from that block came out and started to help. Somebody brought a lawnmower, cut the grass. Other people brought boards. Other people brought things to clean up the yard. And they said, not on our watch. That's how Blightbusters was born. They've torn down hundreds of houses. They've rebuilt several as well. They've made community playgrounds. They've made community gardens. They've painted murals. And what they're doing every single day is changing the energy in and around that area. You walk through downtown Redford or historic downtown Redford with John George, and it's like being with the mayor, man. Everybody knows this guy because he's out there and he's making a difference every single day. We talk about leaving a legacy. And here's what I can tell you for sure. You need to have a really strong why. What is the purpose for you doing what you're trying to do? When your whys are strong enough, the hows take care of themselves. So many of us have big plans, we have big ideas, we got things we want to accomplish, but we're not really sure how we're going to get there. I'm going to tell you right now, here's the secret to that success. One little step forward each and every day. Just keep moving. Start. You realize you're going to fall and get yourself up. Start again and again and again. Anybody that's ever done anything great, anyone that's ever done anything you know about has had difficulty, has had trouble, has run into roadblocks, and has picked themselves up by their bootstraps and started again. And that is what makes Detroiters great. And that is what makes Michiganders great, because we've felt the face of adversity. We've been smacked into it up in time again. And it doesn't matter because we keep moving. There's a gentleman I know by the name of Menachem Niespec. Anybody know Menachem? Operation Kid Equip? Menachem started this organization in his bedroom. He had a goal of supplying school supplies, like a backpack of supplies, paper, pencils, rulers, tape, the stuff kids need in school, to underprivileged children who could not afford school supplies. Because when times are tight, those things get missed in a household. If you're worried about how you're going to feed your kid, you're probably not worried about whether or not they got a nice backpack to go to school. Menachem knows that education can end the cycle of poverty. So he started out with the noble goal of supplying 100 children backpacks in the course of a year. Last year, he impacted 67,000 children in and around the state of Michigan. You know why? Because his why was strong enough. Walmart can't wait to give him goods and supplies. You can go right up the street, right up here on Stevenson today. Well, I don't know about today, but maybe on Monday when they're open. You could go and look at what they call the teacher's annex, where teachers walk in, they get a shopping cart, they walk up and down aisles like it's a supermarket, pulling books off the shelf, pulling notebooks, pulling pens, pulling paper, whatever supplies their kids may need, up to and including non-perishable food that teachers now keep in their classroom for kids that need it whenever they need it. And you know what happens on long weekends? Kids need it. It's a weird thing to think about, but there are people in our area right now that are going to school and they're having school lunch because it's free, and that is the meal they are having today or yesterday. 6,400 kids in the Detroit area, in this whole metro area, are going to school every day, and they're homeless. We got work to do, people, and it takes each and every one of us, right? And it doesn't take a lot when each and every one of us participate. There are causes. I don't care if you support leadership for the blind, leader dogs for the blind, right? If you want to help people in that vein, if you want to go tear down a house, if you want to lay out and give blood to the American Red Cross, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you do something and do something every day, right? We now live in a world that is so much bigger than the world that we think we do. If you're making your life about you, you are playing too small. Another guy that's doing some cool stuff around here. Anybody heard of a guy named Dan Gilbert? Thought maybe that might work. So Dan comes at the problem from a very different side, doesn't he? John George is poor, man, in terms of financial wealth, right? He's rich in many, many areas. I don't think anybody's saying Dan Gilbert's poor. This guy is making a sizable difference, really changing the skyline of downtown Detroit on a regular basis. He's got the means to do it. But so what? There's a lot of rich people that don't give back. We all know some. He decided that he wanted to make a significant impact. I saw him speak at TEDx in 2010, and he had a line that closed out the show that resonated with me and still hits me every single day. He stood in front of 1,400 people and said, "You're all thinking too small. Skyscrapers are cheap." Skyscrapers are cheap. Man, has anybody ever had that thought? I need to buy me a skyscraper because those things are cheap. I'm going to get on that. He's out there changing the landscape. What are you going to do? How are you going to make a difference? I look at the gentleman right here that I just met for the first time, Luther Taylor. Every now and again, I get messages on Facebook. I get excited, right? We all get excited when we see our little messages on Facebook come up. I'm like, oh, damn, it's Luther posting about jobs again. And then I think, man, that is so cool because this guy is trying to look at the community, figure out where he can add value, where he can inspire somebody else to make a difference. And he does it, and hats off to you. If I was wearing a hat, I would tip it right now, man. I appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate what you're doing. Because here's what I know. There's a ripple effect, right? You go out and have a bad day, right? We wake up in the morning, we go to brush our teeth, we spill toothpaste on our shirt. That kind of sets the tone, right? All of a sudden, we hop in the car, somebody cuts us off. You pretty much saw that one coming, all right? You catch every single light on the way to work. You get to the office, your boss is standing there yelling at you. It's the first thing because you showed up 15 minutes late. All of a sudden, you go out to lunch. Your favorite restaurant's full. You can't get in, all right? You drive around looking for a place to eat. You run out of lunchtime. You get back to work, client calls up, they're mad as hell because something got screwed up. You get home, a kid's bugging you because the kid needs your help doing homework and you're already in a bad mood. And finally, just to cap it off, you go over and you kick the dog. Well, the dog deserved it, man. It was standing there, basically asking for it. You know, they look up at you. It just compounds itself. And you pass that on. The people you interacted with got a little bit of poison, got a little bit of cancer off of you. Every moment we have the opportunity to choose how we're going to be, how we're going to behave, and what part of us we're going to bring into the next moment. Every moment you have that choice. So you can spill that toothpaste on your shirt first thing and say, damn, that's hilarious. I think this little white stripe goes well with this shirt. I wish I was wearing a tie to kind of have it blend in. And leave it in that moment. You don't have to bring that you with you for the rest of the day. You can positively impact people. And when you do, that ripple effect happens the same way, right? You go into the gas station, you buy your pack of gum, and smile and say, hey, thanks so much. I hope you have a fantastic day. The next person that gas station attendant talks to is going to say the same thing. And they're going to have a good experience and a good day. And they're going to bring that with them. We all have the ability to be positive catalysts for change. And really and truly, I would like to see us all continue to choose to be such. I know Dean Laddiser does that all the time, man. Out there posting information that's uplifting, gathering people to whatever, whether you're doing a Marketing Monday session or a Thursday roundtable or whatever chats you've got going on, man. Dean's always trying to look at that positive side and share it and infect people with it. Positivity is contagious. And if there's any one thing I could leave you with, it's to figure out what makes you happy so you can do that and always be in the mode of making other people happy. I have no idea what kind of time I have. If there's anybody paying attention that knows that answer, that would be cool. I like 15 more or where? 10, 15 minutes. Oh, fantastic. All right, so do my thing. Speaking of guys that make positive change, I'm going to stand here and pose when Charlie takes my picture.
Suck in a little more.
Yeah, you know, you look a little, I'm going to need some hair and like a girdle up here. If I could get that going on, that would be great. Yeah, that's the damnedest thing about all this, taking pictures with our phones, right? Everything's immediate. And I don't use Instagram, but I don't think Instagram can make me thin and hairy. Does it have that app yet? Because that would be cool. All right, so are we actually up here tweeting? This is good. I want to talk a little bit about how to make yourself known. I recently, and I can't think of the guy's last name. His first name is Brandon. I started receiving emails from a guy named Brandon who does a lot of training on how to promote your expertise online. Is anybody else receiving these? All right, I'm going to pull out my email and I will tweet it so you guys can go search it when I get back. Thank you. That's the one. Brandon Bouchard. If I'm going to cite somebody, I do prefer to cite them properly, so thank you, Jody. So Brandon Bouchard has gone from being reasonably obscure, unknown, somebody that people didn't have a clue what he was about, who he was, or what he was doing, to booking seven-figure deals. And he did this in the last year and a half. And he did it with the belief that he has an expertise that other people would want to learn about, would want to connect with, would want to understand. And he was right. And if you use the web and you use the internet properly, and you frame yourself up in a way that people are looking for that kind of information, and that you are the go-to source for it, you too can make $1 gazillion. And it's pretty cool, man. The guy's literally made like $7 million in the last 18 months, all by putting informational content out. He books speaking gigs, and people show up by the hundreds. He does 2 retreats in the Caribbean every year, and they're sold out. He gets coaching clients that pay him $4,500 a year, and he talks about what he knows. So I had a friend of mine my client's sister-in-law moved back to Michigan about 1.5 years ago, and she hasn't found the right position, and she doesn't know really what she wants to do. Anybody have trouble knowing what they want to be when they grow up? I understand. I have trouble wanting to grow up. I get that. But when you don't know what's a good opportunity for you, you can't possibly recognize it when it bites you in the butt, right? And they happen all the time. But if you're so non-focused on what's right for you, you're going to miss it when it shows up in your life. Man, when I walked in here, I was focused. There was one goal that I had, and that goal was to get a powdered sugar donut. That was like the most important thing. I saw friends, right? I saw Dean, I saw Rosh, I saw Lisa talking, And they're like, hey, and I'm like, shh, I got to get a donut. We have focus, and what we focus on, we find. And what we focus on expands, right? And these are the power of focus. So when you can sit down and figure out what that job or what that next customer or what that relationship that you want, what it looks like, and when you can get specific and dialed into it and actually kind of write it down and shape it and believe that you already have it, it's when you start to find the things in life that you seek. And that's what Brandon Bouchard did. He said, I am going to focus on providing people the information that I know I have in spades so that they can find it, they can gain value from it, they can respect me as an expert and pay me for my expertise. Because being paid as a non-expert is not nearly as good as being paid as an expert. Dude's booking $25,000 speaking gigs. I know there's a handful of professional speakers in here, people that get paid to speak. I would like to know if any of us combined have made $25,000 on one speaking gig. Not yet. I like that answer, Heather Coleman Voss. I like the way you think. It's coming soon. So everybody in Oscoda is going to throw $7 together. Right? I'm thinking there's probably about 8 people up there, so. I'm at 8,000, I'm sorry. So, taking that expertise and being out there and sharing it for you. I used to talk about the whole idea of it's not what you know, it's that's bullshit. It's not who you know, because who you know doesn't really matter at all, right? It's not, it's what you know is important. Who you know is okay. Who knows you is a step up above that, right? Because, I mean, there's a difference between who you know and who you know of. I get that. But still, who you know doesn't mean much if the people you know think you're a schmuck. So it's not only who knows you, but most importantly, it's how you're known. I don't know if we still live in the era of personal branding. Experts would tell you that that went out about 6 months ago. Doesn't change the fact that you still have to have a personal brand. I think the word epic went out 6 months ago, and that still hasn't gone away. All right. Can we not use the word epic? Can we agree to not use the word epic all day? Promise. Thank you. Very good. I couldn't be the only one annoyed by that. So, how are you known? When your network here's an opportunity that would be a very good fit for you, are you the first person they think of? Let me ask you a better way. We talked about Rolodexes and shoeboxes earlier. Do you own spot one in people's mental Rolodex? Because here's the trick. In the old days, we needed information. We went to the yellow pages. Y'all remember the yellow pages, right? Some of you may have them for standing on now, reaching things that are higher. For sitting on, the little, I can't see over the steering wheel. Does anybody not take the yellow pages from the doorstep and drop it immediately into the garbage can? Recycling? And I meant recycling bin, clearly. We live in White Lake. We don't have recycling out there. That's too posh for us hillbillies. So what we know is that people in the old days needed a service. They went to the yellow pages. They looked it up, right? Where do they go today? The internets, right? We Google things. Here's the trick. Back then, now, whatever, before you go search for the person you're looking for, the business you're looking for, you go somewhere first every single time. You go right here. So if you've got a product or you've got a service, you've got to be the first person that they're thinking about. You might do okay if you're in the top 3, but just like in Google, nobody goes to page 2. Ever. Ever. Statistics say that 74% of people click on the first thing right under the sponsored ad in Google. 74%, 3 out of 4. The second one gets about 15%. That leaves 10% for the other 900 pages of results. It's a cookie, eh? So, how are you owning page 1? Right? What is your value proposition? What do you communicate to people as your strengths? How do they know if someone they're talking to is a good opportunity for you? When I think about photography, and when I think about photography as it pertains to social media, I think about one guy. I think about Rosh, who's sitting right behind you conveniently, right? Rosh is a professional photographer for, 20 years? 7 years, right? And Rosh really realized early on that there's going to be a shift in how photography works, right? Now, with the advent of digital cameras, with the ability for people to take pictures from their phone, there's still a real good, strong need for the highest level of professional photographer. But the reality is, every single one of us is now a photographer. Right? I didn't say we were good. I said we were a photographer. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure Rosh would tell me if he were standing here, just because you can take a picture does not make you a photographer. I would agree with that, because I've seen some of the pictures I take. Every picture I take, man, looks like I have no hair. Sad. What we want to do is get to a position where we're great at what we do, and not that we necessarily have to communicate how great we are, but we've got other people telling folks how great we are. When you've got that, when you've got the power of a third-party endorsement, you've got a lot. Now, LinkedIn actually realized this and put out a new feature called endorsements. Have y'all seen this? That's annoying. How many times are we getting endorsements from people who are like, God, I don't even know who that is? They're endorsing me for stuff that I've never come close to doing for them, because I didn't ever do that for anybody. Why are you endorsing me for that? I put that down on a bet. Someone said, I bet you won't write this on your profile. Okay, I'll put that down. And now I got 6 endorsements for it. I don't do that. Endorsements are good when they're genuine. I want to encourage you to take the time to write some endorsements, or as LinkedIn calls them, recommendations. Go into LinkedIn, think about the 5 or 10 or 15 people that you're absolutely on fire for, that you think make this world a much better place, and write them a written recommendation. Be hard to write them a video recommendation, I suppose, or an audio recommendation. That's just for you and I guess. Because 2 things will happen. 1, you're going to absolutely make their day. Nothing cooler than waking up or going to your laptop and seeing a note saying you've been recommended, you've been recognized for something you do well. Second thing that's going to happen is it's going to build some very good credibility for you as someone who's a giver, someone who's thoughtful, someone who's concerned for others. And a well-written recommendation on someone's profile that gets some traffic gets more clicks and more links back to your profile as well. People will see it and say, wow, this person said some really nice things. Who the heck are they? And if you used your summary on LinkedIn properly, they'll be able to learn about you in a nanosecond and say, this is someone I want to connect with. Recommendations are very, very powerful. They're a great way to actuate laws of the universe by giving to someone and then receiving as a result of it. And that's the kind of stuff that when you do and when you practice on a regular basis, positions you in a way to continually receive the good that you want to get out of this life. Charlie and I talk about the concept of selfish altruism. Occasionally, we do good things for other people because ultimately we know that will come back to us. I would ask you to start considering, how can you be selfishly altruistic? Where can you add value to other people, knowing damn well that it's going to come back to you? I don't care what your drive is for doing good, as long as you have a drive for doing good. And that's where it starts. I want to wrap up by talking about this summit and the work that Ron and Heather put into this. You know, I was fortunate, and I thought it was 2011 when they did the last one in May. And I was fortunate to be asked to speak at that as well. And it was cool. It was an event in Ferndale. How many of you were at the first one? Okay, wow. So all brand new crowd. Excellent. Yay! Hey, you guys got good reach on this. That's exciting stuff. Maybe nobody wanted to leave Ferndale and come out. How many people are in here from Ferndale? Okay, so Ferndale's represented. What up, 5 people? Indeed, indeed. So what's happened is they started a movement. They started with an idea and said, we want to put together some fairly bright people. I'd say really bright people, but they put me up here too. And we want them to share some ideas and some knowledge and some wisdom and some inspiration. And we want that to have a ripple effect to the people that show up. And they did it. And they did it again. And it's work, man. It is work putting an event together, securing the space, getting people to show up, inviting people. Nothing is more annoying than promoting the heck out of an event. Would you agree with that, Dean? I know you are an event promoter extraordinaire. Especially when it's your own event, right? That's when it gets really, really hard. I was busting Charlie's chops the other day. He put together a really nice piece for a speaker we're bringing in from Boston. I'm like, dude, if you put that much effort and energy into one of the events we were doing, it would be fantastic. But he's right, man. It is hard to promote your own stuff because you feel like you're patting yourself on the back. So can you all join me in patting them on the back for me? My name's Terry Bean. Thank you very much.